Peter Yarrow, folk music great with Peter, Paul, and Mary, dead at 86. Peter Yarrow, a major figure of the 60s folk revival with Peter, Paul, and Mary, who was convicted of molesting a 14-year-old girl and later received a presidential pardon, died today, the New York Times reports. He was 86. Yarrow died from bladder cancer at his home in Manhattan. His death was confirmed by his publicist, Ken Sunshine. Yarrow had reportedly been battling bladder cancer for several years. Recently, his children, Bethany and Christopher Yarrow, set up a living tribute for their father on his website, asking fans, friends, and others to submit short messages, photos, or videos in Yarrow's honor. Colorado Governor Jared Polis and folk singer Mary Chapin Carpenter were among those who contributed tributes, with their distinctive three-part harmonies, Peter, Paul, and Mary, with Noel, Paul Stookey, and Mary Travers, became one of the biggest and most commercially successful acts to emerge out of the Greenwich Village folk scene. The group won 5 Grammys, released 2 #1 albums, and scored 6 top 10 hits, including a 1962 rendition of Pete Seeger and Lee Hayes' If I Had a Hammer, a 1963 version of Dylan's Blowin' in the Wind, and a 1969 take on John Denver's Leaving on a Jet Plane, which reached #1 that born May 31st, 1938. Yarrow was raised in Manhattan and attended Cornell, where he first began singing folk songs and graduated with a degree in psychology. Yarrow, who first played violin before switching to guitar, also taught a course in folk at Cornell. That's the real reason I entered the folk field, because in that class I saw the transformational power folk music had, he told Westward in 2015. It was a very, very backward time in our country, and certainly on the Ivy League campuses. When the kids at the college took this course, their humanity emerged, and it was palatable and clear. I was in tune with the fact that the world was going to go through a big change, and that folk music was going to become an important part of it. It became the soundtrack of that change. As part of the Newport Folk Festival in Rhode Island, he met Albert Grossman, the enigmatic manager and festival co-organizer. Grossman began working with Yarrow, who started singing in Greenwich Village clubs, especially the Café Wa, performed at the 1960 Newport Festival, and was included in a CBS News special on folk music. In 1961, Grossman approached Yarrow with the idea of putting together a folk trio modeled on the Weavers, but for a new 60s generation. Grossman, in search of a female member and comedian for the group, soon recruited Travers, and Stookey, and Peter, Paul, and Mary was hatched. I had a very strong sense of purpose at that time, and Noel and Mary did not. Yarrow told Rolling Stone in 2009. Mary never believed this would go much further than a year or something. Noel also was doing it on a temporary basis. But I had a different concept. Our voices, singing the way we were singing. I felt that we were carrying on a tradition that would be very important in terms of what was happening in the world. I really felt that we had something important to share. It's like when you fall in love right away and say, I'm going to marry this person. That's what I said in my heart. While traditional songs and adaptations comprise the bulk of Peter, Paul, and Mary's catalog, they occasionally wrote originals. Yarrow was behind some of their biggest, like their 1969 anti-war number, Day is Done, and his most significant contribution, 1963's Puff, The Magic Dragon, based on a poem by Leonard Lipton, a classmate of Yarrow's at Cornell University, the bittersweet tune about a child who eventually grows out of his need for his imaginary dragon friend peaked at #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became a modern standard and cultural touchstone.